I've got the pleasure, once again, and honor to have here with me the first Vice President of E.EN.E and President of the EFA Group, Mr. Hadjiminas. Mr. Hadjiminas, thank you very much for this talk that we're going to have together. Well, I've read a lot about your group before meeting you here, and indeed, I was impressed by the fact that 30 years ago, you thought of investing in high tech, which is linked to defense, security, and space technology at a time when we hadn't even thought of digital transformation. And you've done so well in the past 30 years that you've reached having a high level of exports to over 50 countries around the world, approximately 600 million. And you also export know-how around the world. I'm impressed, and I'd like to ask you, what made you 30 years ago to decide to invest and risk in this sector? Well, thank you. Back then, I may have been impulsive. I thought that in Greece we can work miracles. I'd just come from abroad, and I couldn't just stay here doing nothing in Greece. I saw Greece like a window to the world. But I wasn't impulsive or naive when myself or my colleagues, when I noticed that we had good engineers with good value for money. Even back then when wages were higher. And this proved to be right and came true with a combination of other things. This proved right, rather. And apart from our sector, I believe in engineering a lot. As Mr. Papalexopoulos said, even in their sector, new plants, new production methods, automated processes need real engineers even more than ever before. And in Greece, we've always had good engineers, but they need to enter the labor market. I mean, they are, but I mean, they need to understand what is going on to become business developers themselves, so that anything they design and do should be oriented to the end customer. Clearly, and you're right, at the same time, what I would like to ask is, because I believe that you wouldn't disagree if I said that the idea of high technology back then was not enough, but the entire economic development model that you implemented. So what is your philosophy? What is your concept behind the development model that businesses, industrial businesses need to follow if we want to talk about development and growth long term, that will, in the long run, that will be quite competitive as well? I'll be brief. There are three things that are quite important. The model we followed, and of course, the one that we would recommend to others, if we could, is that first of all, you need to have a product in Greece. Due to the long-term crisis, we looked into our drawers and our lockers, and I saw that in the food and drinks industry, there are companies that took the recipes of their grandmothers and turned it into an exportable product. So it's not only about high-tech. Theon, the most important E.ON, which is the most important company in our group, our flagship, we realized that these things did exist, but we had to develop them. We have to make them better. So we need to have a product. We have products. we have programs, they are lying around us and we can identify them. I might sound naive, but I believe this. Then, being outward looking, aggressively outward looking, it would be exports is only part of the outward, the openness of the economy. For instance, in the US, Papalexopoulos with his company Titan was one of the first companies that invested and then invested in the US. It's not only, of course, cement is not easy to transport over long distances, but and Delta as well, the dairy industry. Chipita paved the way. Ancient Greeks were not just involved in trade, they built settlements because they would create connections with local communities. They would carefully listen to their markets, the local markets, and this is why we did well. They did well. So it's not about exports. When we talk about outward orientation, it takes more than exports. Look at Chipita, a model in which we really believe in, a model in a product that involves no high tech, like croissants. Nonetheless, pastry products. They adapted it to different markets. They shared their know-how and invested with local businessmen, and they managed what they have. And then there's the connection between business development and research and development and engineering. Engineers should not, we should not design and develop our products based on certain ideas of engineers, but the ones who develop the technology should be and the products should be the ones that would be able to sell them. Having monitored the way you work, having followed the way you work in your group, I saw that you place emphasis on quote-unquote settlements, settling, and also skills, ongoing training, lifelong learning, ongoing training of your employees, and actually in a way which is much more than reskilling and upskilling. For instance, you place emphasis on how your employees, in order for them to be open-minded and to be imaginative, your employees must have classical education, to be in touch with arts and culture. This is very interesting indeed. And please tell us how you support your people with knowledge, not only skills, but also knowledge. This is very simple. First of all, it's something that we launched a couple of years ago, and next year, indeed, we're going to reach the peak. We're going to roll this out across our group because we've seen the first results of an experiment we ran. Well, experiment. Most important thing is to try and connect the dots. And to do that, you have to have a holistic approach, which you can't have by simply getting a digital skills certificate. It is important, but unless there's more to it, you can't do much. And how do you do that? Through culture and education. And I'll give you 3 examples to explain what I mean. You can go and can you sell in another country unless you speak at least 2 languages and unless you've read, you've studied history, not only our history, but not only the history of your country, but the history of the other country. How can you sell them to them? This is a prerequisite. We've started exercising pressure on our employees, regardless of their position in the organization, to learn at least 1 foreign language. And those who learn a foreign language, we help them develop their career. We promote their careers. That's one example. Second, might sound a bit peculiar. Art is key. Theater. In theater, think of an actor or an actress, theater actor or actress who needs to perform and cannot make a single mistake. Do you understand the level of discipline? Yes, you're talking to a former actress who's currently running Fortune, and so I fully understand what you mean. I endorse this idea of culture that is required, especially in the current context. Yes, exactly. And now we're bringing theater people into closer to us, and it might sound funny, but I do believe in this, and so do my associates. It takes a lot of discipline when your people go abroad to make a presentation and they're there in person. When they make presentations to customers in person, there is technology can help a lot, but a lot of artists have not managed to sell this properly to business people, to this discipline and this talent. Now, art again. What is art? Visual arts. It teaches you to see things that others can't. It definitely is very important for anyone who is a product designer, industrial designer. It can but help them. So what do? We try, and actually it's a pleasure, it's quite enjoyable, it's not only about money. So we're trying to drive our people in whatever way we can to be in touch with art, to be... Okay, thank you very much for this very interesting talk. And at this point, I'd like to point out that recently in a workshop run by Fortune in EMEA, one of the most influencers people in Europe talked, Mr. Leonhard. He said one of futurists currently quotes Peter Drucker when he said art has technology for breakfast. Indeed, art plays a key part, a leading part, as long as you can include it in the way you're trying to deal with in a certain context, environment. And I'd like to ask you another question, which is very important, because this talk is on how Greek economy and Greek businesses can take a development path at a fast rate and in the long run in order to deal with any future crisis, create jobs, have outward orientation. But right now, Mr. Hadjiminas, there is a lack of talent. We may have very capable Greek people who excel abroad, but the brain drain is still going on. And the pandemic led a lot of young people to redefine what the concept of well-being and what reprioritize what matters in life. And in the US, we've had millions of young people quitting their jobs. So where is the key in order for a business to fill vacancies that require talented people right now? I'd like to add something to something you said in the beginning, because we are in the area of defense, in the sector of defense, and you do realize that science and technology are their best. I'd like to add that science, technology and science without art can be dangerous. In other words, when you deal with things like that, not lethal necessarily, because we're not into lethal equipment, but art and culture should set the limits to science and technology. And to respond to what you said, We did not lose a lot of people because of the brain drain. Only a few, and actually they were right when they left back then. And now we're bringing a lot of people back because in the past couple of years things have improved significantly. Nonetheless, you can't gain all these people back because they've created a new life there. So there's this phenomenon of lack of talents. This is a shortage of talents. This is a problem that can be reversed and become a great opportunity. So what have we done? We've realized that there aren't enough talents. There aren't enough talents, but we're going to create our own from our own people. So we will do what everybody calls reskilling, upskilling, retraining, everything we've heard so far. So from one point of view, this is good because Greek businesses will be forced, like we are forced right now, we're being forced for the reasons we said earlier, will be forced to look at their people from a different point of view and see how they can upgrade them, since there is indeed a lack of skills, lack of specialties, lack of people who have got skills that we need for the reindustrialization of our economy. So perhaps this is an opportunity to revisit what I said earlier. In fact, when the crisis emerged, we looked into our joint to see what we could build and what we could sell. Now, due to the lack of talent right now, we're going to look into our households, into our businesses, and see who are those who are capable enough to gain the skills we need in order to replace the talents that we miss. Work loyalty will play a part. Mr. Tsakiris and Mr. Liakos mentioned that. Specifically, Mr. Liakos said, how can you keep a talent? How you can retain talents? Because the lack of talent is not an actual lack of talent. It's just that we miss them, we lose them, because when you pay them €1,000 when they've done a lot of studies and when they can have a better quality living standard abroad, why should they come back? I'd like your opinion. Well, look. Let me tell you what we do. I can't talk about everybody. We have stopped paying minimum wages long time ago. We're going to be interrupting. They're going to be right. But anyway, we try to have all our people having a share in our profits. So when we do well, they should be rewarded. So they feel that if they stay here and if we do well, they will do better themselves. So then thirdly, we try to make our workplace more interesting so that they feel that where they are, they're going to learn not only a craft, but they will learn another language, another foreign language. So we invite them to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, all this, hopefully, will help us retain these people. And so far, we haven't had any leakages. We wish you the best. We wish you personally and the Greek businesses all the best. Mr. Hadjiminas, thank you very much for this talk.